to play. We've got stories for your day. From Onefinity, it's clear to see the finest CNC. It's the Cutting Edge Podcast. Let's take a flight with designs and tools that ignite.
Welcome everybody. Welcome one and all to the Cutting Edge Podcast presented by Onefinity CNC. I'm one of your hosts, Morgan.
Oh, is this my cue?
That's your cue.
Stone. What's up, guys? I was not ready for that. I thought you were gonna lead into it, and and joining me is, but
you know what? I probably should have done that. Let's start that over.
No, we're just gonna go with it. We're just gonna roll with it.
Okay. All right.
You get one shot at
that. So it has been a minute since we've put out a podcast, because we've just had a ton of stuff going on, and that's actually what this episode is about, is all the stuff that has been going on that has been keeping us from all of your lovely ear holes. But before we get into that, it is worth mentioning that this episode and this podcast is sponsored by our friends at Bits and Bits, and we both, Stone and I, use Bits and Bits bits, and they are outstanding. I use them for almost everything.
Yeah. Obviously, they're a great company. We work very closely with them. And since they are someone we work really closely with, they wanted to sponsor the podcast, but also give you guys something. So because of that, you can use the code 1F Cutting Edge for 20% off of your order at bitsandbits.com. So be sure to use that coupon code 1F Cutting Edge for 20% off of your entire order at Bits and Bits. Get you some Bits and Bits for your Onefinity CNC. That was a mouthful.
There you go.
But yeah, so thanks to our friends over at Bits and Bits. But we have, like Morgan said, just kind of some catching up to do. The last few months have been a whirlwind at Onefinity, to say the least. Obviously, we had our big product launch back in the last week in November. So that was busy. We had a secondary sale that we did over the holidays, kind of through the 1st of January. So we got through Christmas, all that. But ever since then, it's just kind of been trying to catch up, really. So we haven't been on here a lot. We've missed doing this. But there's a couple things we wanted to fill you in on, right?
Stone's mouth not working today.
my mouth's not working. But before we get into any of that other stuff, just so we can have a little fun with this, we've got a couple questions, or I've got a couple questions here. So I'm going to ask Morgan a question, and then I guess I can answer it. Morgan, and I'll put this in the chat for you too here.
Hit me.
What is one outfit that someone could wear that would make you want to go on a date with them?
Hands down, sundress. Something about sundresses, or just, I don't know. They're just so cute. And for a dude to have the confidence to wear one is just says a lot,
So you heard it here first, guys. If you want to take Morgan on a date, just wear a sundress.
That was easy.
That was yeah.
All right. Well, what about you? What is something that somebody can wear? Birthday suit.
That's not what I was going with. This is going to sound really strange, but I am a big fan of a woman in turquoise.
Turquoise power suit?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe a onesie.
A pantsuit.
I don't know why, but when I said onesie, it made me think of the Teletubbies.
I try not to think about them.
Anyways, so we have a couple more questions, but we'll save those for later in the show to kind of.
We'll just drop them in here and there.
But we'll start doing some of that stuff so you can kind of get to know our wacky minds a little better. But
If there's ever any really truly knowing our waking minds, I don't think there is. We'll get
Going
to as
back,
close as we can.
yeah. Going back to business though, we just recently went on a trip up to Canada. So obviously we're from the South. We don't, like the cold. But we went up to Toronto not only to do a show, but also to visit our headquarters up in Newmarket. So Morgan, I'll let you kind of start us off talking about that trip. Give
Yeah.
us your outlook on it.
It was, I mean, it was an awesome trip. Like I had a great time, and I was really, really excited to get to visit headquarters for the first time, because I've been working with Onefinity in one capacity or another for, I think, about 3 years. And this was the first time that I had visited headquarters and actually gotten to see the people that I work with in person, and not just through a webcam and, on Zoom or whatever. Um, but so that was super, super exciting. Uh I had to get my passport and get it expedited so that I could make the trip, because it's been a long time since I've traveled internationally. I got up there and I took one step out of the airport and just turned right back around, went back inside. I was like, no, I can't do it. It's so
He
cold.
actually did.
It was like, it was so, that feeling you get when you, like, an ice cream headache, when you eat ice cream too fast. You get that just being outdoors up there. Um, and so obviously, being from Central Florida, I'm not prepared for that. Um, but I got over it fairly quickly. Um, yeah, first couple days we were up there, I just spent a couple days in the shop and office. It's kind of, well, it serves as both, and it's kind of all kind of sparsely broken up over different units. Um, because we've just grown. I mean, it's a good problem to have. We've just grown so much faster than we anticipated, and so the space that we started out in, we had to get another unit, but there was, one unit in between, or two units in between. So we've pretty much taken over this whole building up in Newmarket. Um, and then, eventually we'll get into, a different place, but it was fun seeing, like, well, when we expanded this year in, this space, we got this unit for this specific purpose. And that was fun to see. Got to meet everybody, anybody that calls in or emails and talks to support, or any support related to, like, orders or anything. Those are the folks that you talk to.
Yeah.
None of that's outsourced. So I got to meet all them and hang out, and it was a really, really good trip, and a really good time to, like, just like connect. And no matter how much you talk with somebody over the computer, there's really no substitute for seeing someone in person and really connecting with them that way.
Yeah, I agree. So similar to Morgan, I got up there and it was absolutely frigid. So I was not ready for. Well, I say that I was more ready than Morgan. This guy has like no winter clothes. Um, if you feel free to donate, this man needs a winter coat. So we're gonna take up a collection.
Who was it? Was it Kamani or Luke or somebody was talking about starting a GoFundMe to get
It
me a
was
winter
Kamani.
coat?
Yeah, he was like, "Can we get a GoFundMe going? Get this guy a jacket." Some.
So
Um,
I feel like every bit as useful. Like, it's a perfect substitute. Rather than having one big winter coat, just wear all the sweaters that I own at the same time. It's basically the same.
that's what he did for a week straight.
Yeah.
Um, no, but we got you a nice new Onefinity jacket ordered. So
Oh,
next
sweet.
next time you'll be ready.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't pack lightly when you go to Canada in the winter. But like Morgan said, we got there on was it a Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yeah. So we got there on a Tuesday. Morgan got there a little bit before I did. So he headed to the shop, met up with a couple of guys, and got some food while I was coming in from the airport in rush hour traffic. I did not realize how big Toronto was. Like, I knew it was a big city. It's obviously the biggest in Canada, but I didn't realize how big of like a metropolitan area it was, I guess, because it took like an hour and 15 minutes to get from the airport to the shop, which is like
That's
not
about a
that
half
far.
hour more than it took me.
Yeah,
But I was in like earlier in the day. It was
yeah. I got there at like 3:30 in the afternoon, so that probably didn't
yeah.
help. But yeah, we went to the shop. By the time I got there, Morgan was already gone back to the hotel, so I just kind of looked around, talked with some of the guys, and then I headed over to the hotel with Morgan. What did we do? I guess Wednesday.
Well, first thing we do when we get to a hotel, Stone and I travel together a lot, and we always share a room. And the first thing that we always do whenever we get to, I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast before, but first thing we always check for is to see if Mario Lopez is your virtual concierge at the hotel. Because 9 times out of 10, you turn on the TV, that's the first face you see. It's Mario Lopez.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, not in Canada.
No. The first one, he had the guide channel, remember, didn't he?
Oh, you're right. No,
Yeah.
wait. Yes, you're
Yeah,
right. He did.
We stayed at 2 separate hotels while we were in Canada.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later, but carry on.
Well, that's it. I was just kind of alerting the audience, all dozens of them, that when you go to a hotel, check for Mario Lopez. He's going to be there 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. Usually right when you turn the TV on. If he's not there, check the guide channel that tells you what's going on in the area. But yeah, it's always a pleasure to see Mario in our hotel room.
Yeah. Comforts of home, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, I had actually never heard of that until you told me about it, I guess a couple of years ago.
And now you can't unlearn it.
I can't, like, even if I go somewhere and you're not there, I still check for him. And now you guys will too. So,
hopefully.
Tuesday night, checked for Mario. He was there. We slept great because of it. Wednesday, we just went and we just kind of hung out at the shop, the warehouse. So if you've called in, like Morgan said, you've probably talked to Augie or Becky. So we went and kind of got to see what they do day to day. Obviously, we know what they do, but it's different, seeing it in person.
And what they do is absolutely miraculous.
Yeah.
It's I mean, like, just actually seeing it in person is like, wow.
Yeah. So they do a great job. Becky, I know, talks to I don't know how many people every day and does 30 other things on top of that. Augie's doing all sorts of different stuff. I honestly don't even know what all they've got him doing anymore. But he's a busy man too. But then what I really enjoyed, I think, the most about being at the shop, aside from just getting to catch up with everybody and talk and spend time together in person, was getting to see the production side of things. Obviously, like doing the support and the technical videos, like I know how that stuff works, but I don't always get to see the full picture. So it was really cool to get to see all the different stations where they're building different types of rails, or assembling machines and testing them, or building the accessories like the tool setter and things like that. So it's kind of cool to see how all that stuff kind of works together, and the way everything flows through the warehouse. So that was cool. And then
I know that this is something that we've talked about a lot, but it was cool to be there and see it in person. Is that like every single machine, is all the components, the materials are assembled and built, and then every machine is fully assembled and tested before it gets unassembled, boxed up, and shipped to whoever bought it.
Yep.
And so just going into the one of the production warehouses and just seeing table after table after table after table of machines getting set up, running them, making sure they're good, and like just to see that process in person was cool, because to say it is one thing, to actually see it is something totally different.
Yeah. And I know we get a lot of questions about that. Like, do you really assemble every piece? Blah, blah, blah. Yes.
Every single one.
Every single piece is put together on it. There's 2 testing tables actually. But yeah, 24/7. There's machines getting built, being tested, getting packed, and then they ship out the next day. So it is honestly, it's a lot more complicated than I think people think, just because you don't realize how many moving parts go into something like that. Not physical moving parts, but you know what I mean.
The proverbial moving
Yes.
parts. And
Uh,
I've gotten questions about that too, is like, questioning whether or not that's actually practical, because that's not something that a lot of companies do. But we don't want to deal with returns any more than anybody else.
yeah,
So like, if we like, it's easier to put a machine together, test it, and take it apart and box it up than it is to have to deal with somebody that's got a problem because they're missing one bolt.
exactly.
Like,
Well, and another thing is, like, with the design of the Onefinity, like 85% of the machine is already assembled as soon as you take it out of the boxes.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's a ton of work going into it. It's just a couple bolts to hold the X rail to the Y rails, a couple bolts to hold the Y rails to the table. That's pretty much it. I mean, for the most part, everything else is just wiring or plugging in wires, connections, and then, like I said, just some bolts. So it makes it a lot easier to do stuff like that. But it was really cool to see that in person, to get to meet the guys that are doing some of that. I talk to a lot of those guys on a daily basis just for support reasons. But getting to see them and spend time with them, especially Roy, I love that guy so much. He's, I don't, he's like, I don't know. He's one of those people that makes you feel good about yourself. Um, but we got a lot of good people up there. So we got to spend the day with them Wednesday at the shop. Got to go eat a nice steak dinner at, what was it called? The Keg? Is that what it was?
the keg. Yeah.
Yeah. They had quite the selection of meats.
Yeah.
Um,
And they called what I've always called ribeye. What did they call it? Strip loin or something like that?
yeah, it was something like that.
It was like, it was a weird name that I didn't recognize. Like,
Well, I mean, it makes sense when you think about it, because a ribeye is a New York strip and a fillet, right? Is that
yes.
right? Yeah.
Well, no. No, a T-bone
A
is
T-bone is a fillet
a
and
fillet
a
on
New
one
York.
side of the bone and a strip on the other.
So a ribeye is,
A ribeye is different. A ribeye
yeah,
is not either of those.
yeah, you're
So
right.
they have a weird different name for it. They called it strip loin, which when I was trying to order steak, I was a little confused. It's like, what do you have that's close to a ribeye? And they're like, well, this is a ribeye. I was like, well, then call it that, man.
If you know Morgan, you know he takes his meat seriously.
I do. I very much do.
But yeah, so we had a nice dinner Wednesday night. Got some surf and turf.
Yeah. Went out with the whole Onefinity team.
Yeah, just kind of spent more time getting to know everybody a little bit better. Obviously, like we said, we keep saying we talk to these people all the time, but being able to see them and just spend time together in person is really, really good. And
And
just
break
a lot
bread.
of, yeah, just a lot of that kind of stuff. Thursday was busy day. That was setup day.
That was setup day.
Yeah.
And it was, well, it was busy, I guess, busy in a different way for us than it usually is.
I was gonna say, now that I think about it, it was kind of less busy, but
Well, we had to go from New Market, which is about 45 minutes or so away from where the show was.
mhm,
And we had to find some place to stop on the way to get some wood to
yeah,
actually cut, because we don't travel with it, obviously, and there wasn't much at the office, so we just decided to stop at a lumber mill, and we went to like the coolest lumber mill I've ever seen.
it,
It
it
was
was awesome. It was from sometime in the 1800s. They said it opened, but it was think they said like the oldest mill in that area or whatever, but it was just massive. So they had their front building was just kind of like lumber. So kind of the showroom area, the office where you go in and pay. Um, but towards the back, they had the actual like sawmill and all these giant band saws and planers and all sorts of stuff. And that was really cool,
I
especially
think I
that back
saw.
building.
I think I spotted a 24-inch joiner,
That's insane.
which is monstrous. I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
But I think the one of the things that made it so cool was it was snowing outside. Obviously, being January in Canada, it was cold and snowy. So we're out. It was kind of tucked off back in the woods a little bit too. So it was just kind of a cool place where you got the trees all around you, and you had like some sort of field off to the side. Um, but walking around in those old buildings in the snow, it was just really cool. Something we don't get down here very often.
Or, well, you get a little snow every now and again.
Every once in a while.
I get none. So snow is completely foreign to me, and that's good. I like it that way. But it is fun to visit every now and again.
Yeah. So we got the wood, headed to the show. But
And
one
the
thing
guys,
that was,
sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that the one thing that was really nice about this show, is Morgan and I didn't have to set up the machines. So usually when we travel, we will ship the machine to wherever the show is at. We get there, we unbox it, set it up, do all of the prep work. This time, since it was so close to our home base, it was just a short 45-minute drive down from the warehouse to the show that was in Mississauga, which is just right next to Toronto, if you don't know the area. But we had, three guys. So
The guys from the
Elmo-
warehouse that are all day, every day, putting machines together, testing them, and taking them apart. That's who was setting up our booth for us, and so they were just flying through it.
Yeah. So by the time we stopped, got our lumber, and then got there, we left at the same time as them. We probably took 15, 20 minutes at the mill.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
And then by the time we got there, they were basically already set up with everything. So that was just super nice because we are usually the ones that are crawling around on the floor putting stuff together. And
Yeah.
we didn't have to do any of that, which was fantastic.
That was a blessing.
Yeah.
Um,
I think one of the things that makes it such a big deal is after you've done all of like the crawling around and setting all of that up, it's just like you're dead and you don't want to do anything else.
right. Yeah. And then
mean,
then it kind of sets the tone because like you're already exhausted, starting out the weekend, and then kind of sets the tone for the rest of the weekend, at shows.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is like you're not just setting up a machine like setting up a machine is one thing, but we're setting up multiple machines, and then we've got the rest of the booth set up where we've got to get backdrops and giveaways ready and stuff like that, where it's not just one thing. There's a whole bunch of it that goes into it,
Right.
So
All while other people, that are also there for setup day. I mean, like, when you've been doing this for a while, you run into familiar faces, and you kind of form relationships. You start to get to know people. And so, they don't realize, that you're busy or, having to do stuff, but, people will walk by, they'll see us and they'll stop and they'll want to chat. And, that's more important to me than getting the booth set up, to be honest. But it does delay it, and then like you kind of end up there a lot longer than you were expecting to, because like I know I can set up a machine in this amount of time, but when you've got all these other people from the industry stopping and saying hi for just a few minutes at a time, it does drag things out.
It adds up for sure.
Yeah. Not to say that we don't appreciate that.
Please do come by and say hi to us at the booth while we're setting up. But
yeah,
it was just nice to not have to worry about every single aspect of setup, where we just had to do the booth stuff, where we make it look pretty, where we don't have to set up the machines and do all that. So
yeah,
I could get used to that, but I don't think I'm going to.
yeah. We yeah, it's weird too, like, because like we usually get there, right, not right when they open it up for setup, but not at the end, more toward the beginning of the middle. And
Yeah.
we, because we know that it's not a problem. We can get our stuff set up in a reasonable amount of time. But like we'll be leaving some shows that we go to, we'll be leaving after we set up, and like setup time for that day is almost over. And like there's booths that are like nobody's done anything to. And then you walk in the next morning and it's just there. I'm like, when did you guys get here? Like, and how did you do it? Like, I've been like, so I've seen Surf Prep do that. Like, we've gone and like been next to Surf Prep at a show, completely set up, left the venue. It's like the day's over, and like they hadn't even gotten there yet because they were like driving or something.
Yeah.
And then we walk in the next morning and they're all just like to the nines, all set up, looking pretty.
Yeah.
Like, when did you guys do this?
I mean, I will say our setup is a little different because we have a big
Definitely different. Yeah.
machine where it's a bunch of components that we're taking and putting together rather than we're pulling something out of a box. That's not to say that these other people don't spend a lot of time getting their boots ready, but it is different. But hopefully soon we will have an answer to that problem. I'm working on things. Yeah. I guess this is a good time to pause talking about our show trip and talk about upcoming show, WorkbenchCON.
Yes. Before we do that, should we get to another question?
Oh, I think we should. Okay. Here's question number 2 for you. If there was a zombie apocalypse, which 3 makers would you choose to be on your survival team and why? It doesn't actually say why, but I want to know your answers.
Okay. I'd say first, probably Ann Briggs, Ann of all trades.
Mm-hmm. She knows all trades.
She knows all the trades. She raises livestock and knows how to manage, small scale agriculture and raising animals and stuff. So that's a super good skill to have. Plus, I've seen her just like take just like a log out of like a firewood pile and make a chair out of it with like a butter knife. It's weird. So she'd be a good one to have
with a butter knife.
Or she'll just, I don't know, somehow she's got wild and wacky methods.
Okay, so you got Anne. You got 2 more now.
And I would say maybe Jeff Hinke, because he could fit into tight spaces. And that's, I feel like, something you would need, in the zombie apocalypse. You would need to be able to get into small spaces, but also, also have the, the strength and fortitude to fight off, said zombies. So
yeah, Jeff's a strong guy.
Good name.
Shout out, make the
and then I would say you, because everyone needs a good body double, right?
Wow. I take it back. I was so honored for like 3 seconds.
Like with a quick diversion, if I'm being chased, quick diversion, now they're chasing you. And I'm scot-free.
That's a good point. You just better hope I'm not faster.
You're not faster. Trust me.
I think we need a race at WorkbenchCON.
All right. Those are my
Oh, man. Those are good. Those are good 3. So you've got Anne, you've got Jeff, and I just forgot your 3rd person. Oh, it was me. That's
you.
Pretty bad.
But how long you'll last, that's anyone's guess.
Man. Well, dang it. I don't want to use you now, but I was gonna use you because like
feel free. I'm using you.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna use you because if you guys didn't know, this man is from Florida. And if you haven't seen the Florida man memes, then you don't know, but they all fit. Morgan is your stereotypical Florida man, and I just feel like he's like a cockroach. He could survive a nuclear explosion.
Also, I'm always in your kitchen hiding.
Gosh, that's not terrifying. So I'm gonna take Morgan, and I'm gonna take
If you can survive gators, you can survive zombies.
yeah.
Easy.
I'm gonna take Patrick Balazzo, Pine Barren Pallet Works. So my reasoning is Patrick has already, to an extent, lived that lifestyle. So if you weren't aware, he lived in a short school bus and like traveled around the country, and just lived on the road doing whatever. But he's handy. He's good at improvising, and I get along with him. So that's three important things there. If you're going to spend a lot of time with people, obviously I've got Morgan. So I've got Morgan and I've got Patrick. Oh. You know who I'm going to take? I'm going to take the man who I feel like has seen it all. I'm going to take Papa Chad.
Ooh.
Something just tells me that he's prepared for the apocalypse.
Yeah, I get that vibe from him. Like he's definitely like he didn't talk about it,
But like he's
and
seen
he's unassuming, but he's got a
Yeah.
football field sized bunker behind his house.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
almost sure of it.
Yeah, for sure. And you know he's got the arsenal. He's gotta.
He's gotta. There's no way he doesn't.
Yeah. So those are my three.
Those are good.
All right.
I like him.
Well, thanks. Now, back to your regularly scheduled programming. Man, that would have been a lot smoother if I could talk. So going back to our trip to Canada. No,
we're
Yeah.
done talking about Canada.
no,
Canada
we
was
haven't.
cool.
We haven't even covered the best parts of it. The show.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? That's a good.
We
point.
got through
Probably shouldn't
setup,
move on
so
just
we
yet.
should talk about the show.
Yeah. One of the really cool things about that show, and it was a pretty, just bird's eye view, looking at it from, that perspective. Very similar to most of the shows that we do. So I would say it was a lot like Texas Woodworking Festival, but
Yeah, it's very similar to the
Canada.
Texas Festival. Yeah,
Very similar to that. But this show, we got to bring out our rotary and show it publicly for the first time, and that was very, very exciting. We haven't been able to do that yet. We announced it in November, and so this was the first time that we were able to bring it out and cut something in front of people publicly, and people were pumped about it. They were excited.
it was really, really cool to get to see the reactions from everybody, not just like consumers, but like other brands and in the woodworking space coming and seeing it, and talking about the design and the rigidity of it, and just watching it work is really cool. I think the thing I heard the most about it was that everybody just loved that everything on the Onefinity looks like it goes together, if that makes sense. So not
Yeah,
just like, I mean, like you've got the machine obviously, but then you've got like the power supply is the same black anodized look, and then you've got the rotary that has the same mechanical design and uses the same type of tubes and things like that. So everything looks very aesthetically pleasing. But I will say it was absolutely terrifying running the rotary in person for the first time, just because I've had a couple months to really learn it and get to know how to use it, but you just never know. Like things never go right the first time when you do them live. Does that make sense?
Things never go right almost always
Yeah.
when I do them. So
But everything was fine. It worked
first
out.
time or whatever.
Went well. So we showed off the rotary for the first time. We also showed off the Redline spindle kits in person for the first time.
I still have the
Oh,
yeah. So I know this is a podcast and not everybody's going to see it, but if you are seeing it on YouTube, we cut this little guy on the rotary at the show in Toronto.
Yeah. So yeah, showed off the rotary for the first time in person. Showed off the spindle kits. We had 2 machines set up, so we had a elite foreman and a pro woodworker.
One of them was doing all the cutting. The other one was really
Yeah.
just to kind of like put our, swag bags on and other like kind of just demo items for people to take a look at.
Yeah. So we just kind of had, I mean, pretty much our typical setup for like a 10 by 20 booth where we had a couple of machines, we had a backdrop, lots of example pieces and things like that. But I think what was really cool, what I really enjoyed about this show, maybe a little selfishly for us, was we had our whole team of Onefinity employees, and all of our owners were there. So it was really cool to get to have everybody there. So it wasn't just Morgan and myself at the booth. We had all the other people who help run the show day to day there to answer questions and interact with the community, which was really good. And it made it a lot easier where we didn't have to talk 24 hours a day. So that was
and we
nice.
still did.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
that we
but
were able to get to more people.
yes,
It wasn't
exactly,
just the 2 of us.
exactly.
Like when we go to shows, like, and I'm surprised that I left there with my voice intact. Like
Mhm.
usually when we go to shows, by lunchtime the first day, my voice is completely gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was consistent. We had a lot of visitors throughout the whole weekend. I mean, they were very it was very seldom slow. There was always people there looking at, or what had questions. And again, like, even though this was our first time in Canada, and kind of a different type of show, there was still a lot of people that had already ordered their Onefinity and were, are waiting for it to get delivered, or have had one for years and just wanted to say hi, or had, 1 or 2 questions to ask us. So there was, yeah, I mean, like half the time there's, the people that visit the booth, they're already up to speed and they just want to hang for a little bit. And I love that.
Yeah. One thing that was really cool was I had what was a couple people. One guy was already a Onefinity owner, and the other guy that was with him is the owner of another woodworking product company. I'm not going to name them, but uh, he owns another woodworking product company that I'm sure that most of you guys are familiar with. But he was buying. He actually came from New York. Uh, he was like Rochester area. He came from New York to Toronto so he could see the machine in person. Because I met him last year at IWF, and we chatted about how he kind of wanted to look at machines, and he drove all the way up just to come and see the machine in person and talk to us, which was really cool. It's always cool when people come out of their way when they know that you're going to be at a show just to come say hi or talk about a machine or whatever it may be. When they come specifically to meet you or the brand, it's a cool experience. It's very humbling.
It is. I was gonna say that's like extremely humbling. I'm like, I wouldn't drive 15 minutes to meet me. Like
That's what I'm saying. But these guys drove like 3 hours.
yeah, it's wild that, like you're something to somebody. That's weird.
Well, I don't know that it was that. Not
No,
me.
no,
But he wanted to come and talk about the machine. But getting to reconnect with those people is always a really cool experience. Or like when
yeah,
you go to shows, like at the Texas Woodworking Festival, there's some people that we saw this past fall that had come the year before, and we had met them, and they were like, "Hey, do you remember me?" And it's always cool to get to have those interactions.
yeah. And those are so for, and you've heard this before, but for those of, our listeners who haven't, so for a couple summers between high school and college, for 11 weeks out of 3 summers, I was a camp counselor, and we would have, I mean, like 8 like 8 or so hundred kids like for a whole week, and then they would leave, and then the next group of 600 to 800 kids would come, and we did that for 10. Well, there's 10 weeks campers, and so every year they would come back and be like, "Do you remember me from last year?" I'm like, "Yeah, champ."
That's a little different.
I remember that. Well, no, like it's just I'm bad with names and faces. Some people are good at least one.
Yeah.
I'm bad with both, but when I go to these things, I do, and maybe that just gets better with being older and meeting fewer people. But like at these things, I do recognize the name or the at least the faces of the people that I met the year prior, and sometimes even the names. So that says something.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of similar where I can remember the face, but the name doesn't always come to me. But it's one of those things where, like I said, it's cool to get to meet people who you've either talked to online or who have met you before that come out just because they want to come say hey.
Yeah.
So Friday we had the show. Friday we had some visitors, some special visitors at our booth. We had Leslie from Oak and Feather Decor.
Yes.
You should check out her Instagram and the Onefinity Instagram. There's a post she added us as a collaborator, but we've worked with her for about 2 years now. And she made us an awesome Onefinity sign for the office up in Newmarket. So she made that and delivered it to us, and got some pictures with that at the Onefinity booth. And she also had our good friend Dom from I think this is how you say it, Inspired Living.
Yes.
But Dom is also a Canadian woodworker. He's got a Onefinity as well, and he came out and hung out with us. They both came for a little bit Friday. Like we said, Friday we just kind of did our thing at the booth, and then wrapped up at 5:00. And Friday night, that was a fun night. We should talk about that still. That was the tower.
1 second. So I was filming a little bit earlier, and my air conditioner unit is right next to where I stand when I'm shooting video. So I always shut it off because it just creates, extra background noise. I forgot to turn it back on. Give me 10 seconds.
Only in Florida do you need AC in the middle of February.
There it is. All right.
All good?
Yeah, I will be. About 10 minutes. It's a very small shop. It does not take long for this thing to cool down.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, Friday.
One reason.
Friday we wrapped up the show, and then 5:00 we headed out and kind of went back to the hotel room and just kind of chilled for a little bit.
What did we do Friday?
Friday night we went to dinner at the tower.
No, we didn't go Friday night. We went.
No, we did go Friday because Thursday we were going to, and we didn't. Thursday we went to the arcade Thursday night.
Did we?
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what night we did what.
Yeah, Thursday we went to the rec room place.
Yeah. We went to the arcade. And
for all you Americans, it's just a Dave and Buster's.
Yeah. But very much smaller. Much smaller. And me, Stone, and an associate of ours that came with us, we all got like $50 worth of arcade tokens, digital tokens, whatever. And we played games, had a great time, but spend $50.
Not even $50. It was Canadian money. So.
Oh, that's true. So like, it was like
$37 or something like that.
30. Yeah. But we all got, our tickets at the end, tokens that you earn playing these games. And so we combined them and we got just the dumbest, goofiest gifts for our boss. In
like
the prize room.
Unicorn.
So like, you go to those things and it's like you spend $20 on games and you can walk out of there with a Chinese finger trap. or
They didn't have any though.
or sticky hand, or maybe 2 Jolly Ranchers. But we got some just goofy presents for our boss, who was very generous and treated us while we were up there. So we thought, well, let's get some garbage from the prize room at this arcade.
I feel like everybody that's listening to this is probably like, you guys are terrible, but she absolutely loved it. So if you know Jen is awesome. She's hilarious, and she had the best attitude about it. So we got her, obviously, like Morgan said, we just got junk from this prize room. And Morgan had the amazing idea to wrap it. So to wrap this, we used one of our giveaway bags from the booth, and for the
It's a
for the
gift
wrapping
bag.
tissue, yeah, it was a gift bag. For the wrapping tissue, he got some unused. I want to be clear on that; they were not used.
Well, gently used.
Toilet
be
seat
clear on that.
covers. Just because they're the same texture as like wrapping paper, gift paper. So, anyways,
It's the exact same thing. It's just
yeah.
toilet seat shaped, but
Yeah.
it's the same material.
But she opened it and she loved it. Got her a little game where you had this hat you put on and you throw these Velcro balls at it. We played that at the booth on whatever, was it Sunday afternoon, I guess?
Sunday. I think it was Sunday, yeah.
But yeah, we just had a good time there. Friday night, we went to dinner at, is it the CN Tower?
CN Tower.
CN Tower, which is the tallest building in all of Canada, apparently. It was very, very high up there. And
I think it was like 1,400 or so feet.
Yeah, that sounds
Give
right.
or take 10 or 20 feet.
Yeah. It was tall.
It was
And
extremely tall.
They had this like little, it's like a observation deck where they have a glass floor. But we stepped onto the glass for the first time and we heard it crack. And I thought I was going to die. But was there like a speaker? Was that what it was that was like playing it?
I don't think so. I don't think it was a gimmick. I think it was an actual settling type of like actual cracking sound.
I don't know. I
wasn't worried about it. Like I knew, like I didn't think I was gonna fall through several layers of extremely thick glass.
Yeah.
And if I did, it's not like I would just be injured and like in pain.
It's not
that would just be the end of me.
It's the fact that you have all the time to think about it before you hit the ground.
Yeah. What do you think you would think about on your way down?
I don't even know.
I would probably think about this test I
cheated
cheated on in 4th grade and just be like reeling over that. Be like, that's.
What do you mean? If you're thinking about it now, you would definitely be thinking about it then.
Yeah. Oh, but so anyway, yeah. The CN Tower.
CN Tower.
It's like 1,400 feet above ground level, and it's has a very, very, very nice restaurant in it. And the restaurant is very just ever so slowly rotates. So over the course of having a meal there, you probably see,
I think
it's good that you can get a view of the entire city. You probably do 2, maybe 3 revolutions over the course of a meal.
Yeah, I'd say about 2 is where we were at over, and it was like 2 hours that we were there.
Yeah.
So about once an hour, roughly.
Yeah. We took our time.
But it's really cool. You can see across Lake Superior into the US, which was kind of cool. I was told that it's really cool during the day because you can see everything, but it was really cool getting to look out over the lights over all of Toronto at night.
Yeah.
Obviously the food was good. But yeah, it was just a kind of a chill night where we went and got dinner and then went back to the hotel, and I think we might have jumped in the hot tub.
Was that night?
I think so.
not that there's much of a story to tell here, but like we went down to the we got back from dinner, went down to the hot tub to just relax because everything, they have an indoor pool and hot tub there. And it said that the pool would be closing at, I can't remember, like
It's like
10 or
10:30 or something.
10:30, something like that. And I was like, well, it's about to close. But then I thought, well, I don't know. They're probably not gonna, most hotels that I've gone to, like they don't have somebody come and like tell you to go. Like you gotta leave the pool or the hot tub. Like they just kind of trust that people will, you know, just be on their way when they're done. But no, like 10:28, some dude comes in from the front desk. He's like snatching up towels and like slamming things around. He's like, "You guys gotta go. It's time to leave." Pulls up like he was very aggressive and like nobody was causing any problems. We were just
No,
literally sitting in there.
it was an interesting exchange for sure.
It was.
But
No,
anyways,
and I usually give people a hard time, like when somebody's being unreasonable and irrational. I will take that opportunity to exacerbate their feelings. I will take that opportunity to just make them feel more anxious because it's silly that you feel that way in the first place. But I was like, I'm in Canada. Uh, I'm in a different country. I don't know. I don't want to get stuck here. So I was polite and left.
so we had that. Saturday morning, got up and
Did the
I
show.
think did the show. Yeah, I think Saturday morning I was convinced that my voice was going to be gone by the end of the day,
Mhm.
and somehow it wasn't. But Saturday was definitely the busiest day at the show. It's just, I mean, it's a Saturday, so that's kind of how that goes. Um, but we just did the booth during the day, hung out, answered questions. Evan from Evan's Workshop came out Saturday and hung out with us for a little bit. If you don't know Evan, go check him out on social media. He's got a Onefinity and he's doing some cool stuff with that and just in general in the shop. But he's 16, so
16. He just got his
he's
license.
yeah, I guess he'll be 17 this next month. But he is doing an awesome job. He's killing it, especially for someone as young as he is, just to be where he's at with his business. He's doing a great job. So Evan came out. He brought his dad and his grandpa, which was cool. If you haven't heard his story, his grandpa is the one who kind of got him into woodworking. So it was cool to get to talk to them about that a little bit. And Saturday we finished up at 5, and then we had a little birthday party for one of the Onefinity crew members, the big 50.
Oh, not your birthday party.
Not my birthday. No, we'll get to that. But we had a birthday for one of our other Onefinity team members, and we went back to the Keg for more steak.
But a different location.
Different location, same restaurant. Went out with, there's like 14 of us, I think, that night.
I think you're missing a critical part of this. We took a limousine from the show.
You're right. How could I forget that?
How'd you forget that? We took a limousine from the show to this restaurant. It was maybe 10 minutes away or so.
Yeah, we did not book the limousine, but
no, we did not book the limousine. But so one of our owners, they have kids, and when they have like big birthday parties with all their friends and stuff,
they have twins.
Yes, they would charter a like a school bus to be able to move all these kids. And she said that it's like the same price to get a limousine as it is to charter a school bus. So she's like, we're trying to move all these people from the show venue to this restaurant. We're getting a limousine.
I mean, the limo was nice, don't get me wrong, but I think it would have been pretty awesome if Onefinity like showed up on a school bus.
Yeah.
That'd
It would
be wild.
be a short bus.
Oh man. But yeah, so we took a limousine to the restaurant. My apologies.
Yeah.
We had great food, great conversations. Just like we said, we hung out and just had a good time Saturday night. Nothing too crazy, but the limo took us back to the hotel after dinner, and maybe that was the night we went to the hot tub actually. But either way, we went
I
to
remember
dinner,
exactly what it
went
was.
back, just kind of hung out at the hotel and chilled.
Oh,
And then,
and while we were at this restaurant, um, at least two young ladies could not take their eyes off of Stone and were trying to give their phone numbers to Stone.
that's false.
That is no,
That is no.
that is absolutely what happened.
It's not exactly how it happened, but we can agree to disagree.
So, for our listeners, all dozens of you, I need y'all to know Stone is an absolute stallion. And wherever you go, if you're ever hanging out with Stone, wherever you go, all the ladies' eyes will be on Stone.
He's
Just
lying.
be prepared for that. I'm just saying that's what happens.
He's lying. Don't believe him. Don't believe him one bit. Anyways.
Anyhow. So that was Saturday night.
Yeah. Saturday night.
Sunday the show was slow. It was
It's a Sunday to show. It actually wasn't as slow as I got the numbers from that yesterday. And obviously it was slow, but it wasn't much lower as far as numbers than Friday was. But yeah, so Sundays are interesting at trade shows, I would say. Especially when they start at like 9 a.m.
Yeah. I think the people that come on Sundays are most everybody so Friday's a regular work day for most people. So I'm amazed that we get so many people on Fridays, but generally Saturday is the biggest day because everybody's off of work. And when the show isn't so big, I mean, you can walk the floor, see everything that you need to see 3-4 times over. So there would be no need for a second day. But I guess some people just, like I bought a weekend pass, so I may as well go back for a second day but most of the people that come on Sunday are just kind of like, there's nothing else to do today. Just kind of like almost like wandering in, not even knowing what's going on. Just like I had nothing else going on. That's kind of what the crowd is like on Sundays.
Yeah. A lot of times if there's other shows going on when they're at these like event centers where you've got, 10 exhibition halls, a lot of times you'll get people who will come over from another show because when a show is $15 to get in or whatever, it's a pretty low barrier to entry. So people who are just out and about will kind of pop their heads in and check out what's going on. But it's not as busy. I think Fridays is typically like kind of the retired crowd, or at least retired heavy, where you've got people who may not be working or work from home or whatever, so they're a little more flexible and they get out. Saturday is obviously the busy day, and then Sunday, it's a lot of people will come back maybe just to kind of see things they didn't get to see or come talk to people when they're not so busy. But for the most part, Sunday is slower. I'm going to backtrack because we completely missed. So Friday we went to the hot tub because Saturday we had Sam come and meet us. So Sam Coleman,
that's right,
from Coleman Designs. He was a very, very early Onefinity adopter. We've got to know him pretty well over the last couple of years, but we got to meet him in person for the first time on Saturday. He and his wife were getting back from vacation right there by the airport, and we're at the airport, and we are in a hotel right around the corner. So he came and met us at our hotel, and we got to meet him and chat with him and his wife for a little bit. So that was good too. So I just wanted to make sure we threw that out there and included Sam in that too.
Yeah,
But yeah,
for sure.
Sunday, going back to the show, Sunday is slower. But we had that with Sam Saturday night. Sunday, we went to the show, just kind of did our thing like normal. And then at about 4 o'clock, the guys from the shop came and started helping us tear down, just taking the machines apart and loading those back up into the truck. And after that, we sent them back to the shop, and we went on our way and kind of just chilled out for a little bit, tried to recuperate from the show.
Yeah, we went found some R&R at a hibachi restaurant.
Yeah.
That was under the impression that it was Stone's birthday. Admittedly, I gave them that impression. So they came and banged on drums and had a whole other party that doesn't even work there. They had a whole other party that was just dining there, grabbed some drums, and they participated in it too. They were so yeah, Stone got a little hat and
it was a
cupcake.
crown.
Yeah, a crown and a cupcake and
Cheesecake. It was way better than a cupcake.
well, it's, yeah, cheesecake shaped cupcake.
It was not. What?
I don't know. Agree to disagree, I guess.
What am I gonna do with you? But yeah, Morgan really got me good because
no, I didn't say. No, I didn't say I did that.
yeah,
I didn't say that I didn't.
You literally said I gave them that impression, and you admitted it to me at the restaurant. What I didn't see when
That's
we were
all hearsay. Hearsay.
We were ordering our food, and sometimes when you're ordering at a restaurant you've never been to, you point at something on the menu. So I assume that's what Morgan is doing. But apparently they had an item on the menu called birthday surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And Morgan ordered that for me without me knowing. Allegedly. And it was nice. It was good cheesecake.
Was it not a surprise?
It was a surprise. But that other party you were talking about, they had a birthday, and the girl whose birthday it was, for some reason, she did not get a crown. She was not happy about it. So
are you talking about the young woman who couldn't take her eyes off of you?
No. Different one.
It was a different one.
Yeah. No, so
by the way, Stone.
I'm not going to say that. Never mind.
By the way, Stone is single, and so this is not problematic at all. It's not like he's in a relationship, and that would be weird for him to go on business trips and be getting attention from other young women. So just if you know a nice young woman, Stone is single.
Actually, one of our owners was trying to get me to go talk to a random girl at the restaurant Saturday during dinner. But I don't know. I think it's all in y'all's heads. Anywho, enough about my love life.
Or lack thereof life.
Wow.
I love you, Stone.
Thanks.
Let's talk about WorkbenchCON.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that because yeah.
It's time. So WorkbenchCON is about 2 weeks away.
It is, 2 weeks. It starts on the 28th. So 2 weeks from this coming Friday.
So we are going to be at WorkbenchCON, much in the same capacity that we were last year. We're going to have a booth, and we're going to have some machines there. And pretty much just it's a it's in the common area of like a portion of a hotel lobby. So we can't actually like cut stuff and like do a bunch of like, demoing in the machines. But most of the people that are there are already familiar with the machines. They've seen them in operation. It's not like we have to do that really. So we're just going to bring a bunch of fun demo items for people to see and just hang out. I'm bringing my Operation Cornhole board for people to play. I'm just going to set that up somewhere in the lobby. Let people just um and just couple other things that we've made on our machines to just fill the booth and let people look at, ask questions about, play around with, and it'll be a good time.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. I think the last big thing that we were at was, well, aside from Toronto, but like that's not like those folks don't really go to WorkbenchCon.
Yeah.
But like the big thing that we went to was Texas Woodworking Festival, I think.
Yeah.
And then prior to that was Maker Camp.
Camp.
Pretty much Maker Camp and WorkbenchCon's like the same crowd for the most part.
Yeah.
So it's been since October since we got to see those folks, and we're just super, super excited to see everybody.
Yeah. But like Morgan said, we're not really going to cut a whole lot, if any, at WorkbenchCon. We might do a couple of little things, but for the most part, we'll just kind of be set up with it to display and answer questions or talk about projects with you guys. I know a lot of you people that we'll see at WorkbenchCon. I gotta stop saying that. It doesn't ever sound good when you say you people.
What do you mean, you people?
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of you guys who will be at WorkbenchCon, we know have Onefinities. So if you have questions about your specific setup or project or whatever, we're happy to chat about that. Or if you just want to come hang out and talk to us at the booth and, do whatever, we'll be there. So come hang out with us, spend some time with us. We always have a good time catching up with everyone at these things. So we're looking forward to it.
I think that that's my favorite thing about going to these. So there's some shows like Texas Woodworking Festival and Toronto, where like there are a lot of people that aren't super familiar or haven't seen, at least our brand of Onefinity, or aren't familiar with CNCs at all. And so there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of like educating to just get people up to speed at those things. But like it's something like Maker Camp and WorkbenchCon, there's really none of that. Like pretty much everybody's up to speed for the most part. So that's just at that point just kind of relationship building, just hanging out and spending time with the community. I think that's the most valuable thing that we do at shows like that, for sure.
Yeah. And we obviously are just part of the maker community like you guys. So regardless of our status at Onefinity, these are things that we enjoy doing. And, these are our friends at these shows. So we want to go and get out and see everybody. So we're really looking forward to that here in a couple weeks. And or even getting a trip to HamBenchCon to go with it. So
yeah, that's always the best part of, for me, the best part of these trips is our friend our good friend Hamilton Dilbeck. He lives just outside of Orlando, or not Orlando, outside of Atlanta. I live outside of Orlando. He lives outside of Atlanta. But we'll go there for a couple days prior to WorkbenchCon, just spend time at his house and in his shop and shooting content and just catching up because he's buddy. And I'm just spending time with, other like-minded folks in the CNC community.
Yeah. So we got that coming up. Aside from that, this is a little bit further down the road, but we're going to be at AWFS this year in Vegas. So that'll be later in July. Obviously, we've still got Maker Camp and the Texas Woodworking Festival. But yeah, we're just kind of.
What about Maker Central?
I'm not sure yet. It's a possibility, but kind of just depends on how things fall around that time. But we'll talk more about.
Well, we're gonna see those guys in.
We'll see them a couple weeks at WorkbenchCon. Vectric and Carveco both will be at WorkbenchCon, so we'll get to see both of our software partners.
Stone got to go over to England for, I never know what to call it. Do I call it Great Britain? Do I call it England? What do I call it?
I mean, technically they're both the same, but I've just say England. I mean, that's the country, so.
Yeah. So Stone got to go to England last year for a conference called Maker Central. I was super jealous. But the Carveco guys, they're heavily involved with that. They're going to be here at WorkbenchCon. So
Vectric is Vectric and Carveco are the two main sponsors of Maker Central.
Yeah.
So
Vectric and Carveco. So see if we can get them to commit to bringing us over to England this summer.
I don't know that Carveco is going to have a booth this year, but I think Vectric will.
Really?
But yeah, we'll have to figure that out. Maybe we can make it over there. That'd be a fun trip.
It would be productive.
I was about to say, when I went last year, it was productive while I was at the show, but then after the show, they just showed me everything. So,
yeah.
But we definitely need to make that trip together.
Yeah. I just want to meet the Queen.
There isn't one.
What are you talking about?
The Queen died.
I'm just kidding.
It's like, where have you been for 2 years?
I'm just kidding.
But yeah, so we've got those shows coming up. Hopefully we'll be adding a couple more in there as well, giving you guys as many opportunities as possible to come see this thing in person or just ask questions, whatever that may be. If you have suggestions for shows you'd like to see Onefinity at, feel free to leave a comment wherever you're watching or send us an email at podcast@onefinitycnc.com. That's podcasts with an S at the end. But yeah, drop us a note. Maybe we can find some more shows closer to your home that we could attend and get a Onefinity where you guys can come see it.
Yeah.
Aside from that,
you want to hit one more question and then we'll close this sucker out?
Yeah. Here's your last question for today's episode. Are you ready?
It's born ready.
It's a 2-part question.
My favorite kind.
The first is not a question. It's really a statement, but it's got a question mark. Describe the worst haircut you've ever had and what age were you when you got it?
Oh, that's easy. Worst haircut I ever had. I got the day before I had to. My best friend was living in New York City, and he and his fiance were engaged, and they had gotten their wedding all set up in the Catskills. It was probably only about an hour and a half away from where we go for Maker Camp.
Mm-hmm.
Gorgeous up there. But I was his best man. And so had to go up there for this wedding. Wanted to have a fresh haircut, for the occasion. And I went to a place that I always went, and they, just absolutely butchered it. It's as though they knew I was going to something important, and they're like, let's take this guy down a few pegs. So it was like, where my part is here, there's I can still comb it on this side. They just buzzed it down to like a 2. right at the part. And then so like I look like Skrillex. And then I show up to my buddy's wedding. I'm his best man, by the way. So I'm standing up there. I'm his best man. And I'm just standing up there looking like I like it's just the worst haircut ever. And not just the worst haircut ever, it was in the worst, it was with the worst possible timing. Because I was standing up, as
Yeah,
my best friend's best man.
I know
Um,
exactly what you mean there.
but you know, it's like an important lesson here is that like I was very upset about it at the time, but now I can laugh. And I should like if I could look into the future and just understand, I'm gonna laugh about this later.
Yeah,
We worry so much about things that are just, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, just absolutely meaningless. Like they don't mean anything. Like my dumb haircut at my friend's wedding, whatever. It was good. It was a good wedding, and I was there, and whatever. My hair looks stupid. I don't, like
yeah.
when you get to the end of your life, are you gonna be on your deathbed, and be like, "Oh, that haircut," ugh," like,
I mean, you might,
right?
but
It just
probably not.
so I mean, so little of what we think matters actually matters, and
Yep.
that's I like that. I like that story, because it reminds me of that. Like, so so much of what we hold dear and think is super important is just not at all important.
100%.
So that was probably a
What
lot more of an answer to that question than you were looking for. But
what age were you? You didn't answer that part.
this would have been maybe 6 years ago. So I was like 30, 32, 33, something like that.
Okay. Well, my worst haircut happened during COVID, which was kind of a blessing. But there's COVID and you couldn't go anywhere basically, right? So I'd been at home for like, I was still in school. So I was like doing school online at my parents' house for, 2 or 3 hours a day. And then the rest of the day, you're just bored to death. And I had gotten a part-time job so that I could like get out of the house basically. And I needed to get a haircut before I started this job this next week. So it was like a Thursday or Friday, and I go to this barber shop that's right around the corner from my parents' house because it's like COVID and it was close and it was impossible to go and find a place to get your haircut just about. So I walked in, he did a great job on my haircut, but then he gets to the end and like my hair is crazy right now, but like I have a part over here somewhere. And usually when I part my hair, like you said, I have a little bit there that I can like comb down. Um, and he did the same thing that did you. They cut it all the way down, and I think it was a 2. But then what he did that really made it worse was this barber cut the Grand Canyon into the side of my head, and I don't know how well this will translate, but you can see the part that he cut into my hair there.
Oh, he cut a
He
hard
cut
part.
he cut a hard part in my hair, and it was like 3/8 of an inch wide.
That's an art. Some people do, like
I
some
mean,
people do
like
a good
he
job,
did a fantastic job cutting the hard part. Like the lines were perfect, but it was so wide
but it was too wide.
and my head was so pale. Like you can literally see like the change of my skin tone where I had hair and where I didn't
I
because
think
it was
everybody's hair is, or everybody's scalp is that
yeah,
pale, isn't
but
it?
but
Like,
the problem was 2 days later after I'd been in the sun for like 3 hours, I had a sunburn in a line right there. So, yeah.
yeah, I
Um,
I used to ask for the hard part because it makes it easier to brush.
it does.
Like
And like
it's just like,
like I
oh, here's the part. Boop.
that was not the hard part was not the bad part. It was just the fact that it was
It's so wide.
3 times wider than it should have been.
It's like they were trying to prevent a forest fire from jumping from one side to
Exactly.
the other.
It's like the areas they mow so that there's no grass there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like they scalped it. But
Yeah.
yeah, and that was 2020. So I was 22. 20,
Jeez.
21. I would have been 21 because it was before my birthday.
You turned 21 in 2022.
No. I turned 22 in 2022 because I was born in 98.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is over. I think we're just I'm calling it.
Oh,
No, I'm just
man.
kidding. I'm completely comfortable with my age and the fact that I'm starting to get gray hair. Not a big deal.
I had a gray hair in my beard last week. So,
Shut up.
and on that note, folks,
Born
we
in
pray-
98. I had a gray hair.
Thank y'all for listening.
Thank you so much.
If you don't mind, take the time to drop us a good review on Apple or Spotify or YouTube, wherever you're listening to your podcast. Make sure to subscribe. And again, don't forget, if you want, feel free to use the code 1F Cutting Edge for 20% off your next order at bitsandbits.com. And of course, thanks for listening.
Or a bad review. You know what they say, like no such thing as bad publicity. Just a review. If you hated it,
true. But
you know, just
leave
be
your
honest. That's all we want.
leave your
Honest.
honest review of Morgan and myself.
Yes.
Please. We may or may not read them at night before we go to bed. And depending on your answers, we may or may not cry ourselves to sleep. So,
Or even stop doing the podcast altogether. No, I'm just kidding. We're gonna keep doing it. So
okay.
All right.
Well, until next time, appreciate you guys watching or listening. Be sure to keep an eye out for new things and announcements. And that's all I got. Morgan?
That's all I got. Thanks for watching and listening. Y'all be good.
Bye.
Bye.
Gather around, it's time to play. We've got stories for your day. From Onefinity, it's clear to see the finest CNC. It's the Cutting Edge Podcast. Let's take a flight with designs and tools that ignite. From wood to steel, we peel and reveal the art of making done just right. Tips and tricks that elevate craftsmanship that's first rate. Join the fun, we've just begun. The cutting edge awaits. On this journey side by side, hear the stories far and wide. From dream to deed with utmost speed, where passion takes its stride. It's the Cutting Edge Podcast. Let's take a flight with designs and tools that ignite. From wood to steel, we peel and reveal the art of making done just right. It's the Cutting Edge Podcast. Let's take a flight with designs and tools that ignite. From wood to steel, we peel and reveal the art of making done just right.